Hello and welcome. I am going to do a part 6 now for my Whatnot series because I have had 2 shows over the past weekend and I've shipped everything out, and now I'm going to make note of what I experienced in the shipping part of it, because having done online commerce now for 22, almost 23 years, I've used several platforms. I've had many evolutions of it come through. I'm very well versed in what the different types of shipping are that are available, as many as the different platforms as far as the carriers and all go, as well as I guess what I was going to say. And I found it to be very clunky, very not friendly at all. They really don't want you to do anything for changing. I feel that they gave you some things that were like profiles in the back, but you realistically in that could only set it up to basically give a limit on the number of items that buyers could put into a package, which would be good if you're selling, let's say, bigger items. The item choices for boxes seem to be that they want you to fit it into a 12-inch cubic box, which is 12 by 12 by 12, or fit it in a flat rate box of the post office being the only obvious source for that. So you could limit the number of items that went into it. So thinking you sold like a cookie jar, if you were selling multiples of them, you would be able to limit it so that the buyer on their end would not be purchasing and thinking they could combine 2 of those cookie jars together. You could do a profile that said that basically all I had to ship in their own individual boxes, and the buyers would have to see that on their purchasing side, I'm assuming, because I have not done that type of show in buying or even evaluating it for myself. So I don't know how they reflect that to the buyer. Maybe you're supposed to give that kind of verbal during the conversation or use the show notes. I don't know. The other item I did notice was that you could limit the weight of items. So I guess, again, if you were selling things that were very heavy but small, I don't know, maybe barbells or something like that, where I've done this enough that once you get over, it's like 50 pounds around that area, that you would go into what is considered to be a heavyweight package, and that requires different notations and things like that, and surcharges do come in on that. So those I totally understand. My issue was that I was shipping very small items. I did the Fisher Price Little People figures to try and learn this on so that I could mitigate there being that much in my costs, so to speak. They did not give you a very clear thing. So for instance, I had one buyer that bought 29 items, I think it was, in my first show, and I noticed they broke them up into 2 shipments. And then on a second show that I did, they made more purchases, and truthfully, if I could have been able to take all of those purchases and put them together, it was going to be about a 2.5 pound package, and I know I probably could have shipped that out for in the range of $12 to $15, depending. I don't recall exactly where they were in the country to me. And they, unfortunately, I in my mind thought, as many of the other sales platforms will let you do, that you could just allow them to know that the item shipped, copy tracking from my first shipment that I created the label on, and then just add it to the other items. And that when it started to track, obviously Whatnot would be able to see that all of those things had been shipped together, and it would obviously send the notice to the buyer as well that there's one shipment coming and here's all the one tracking number. That did not even come in as an option. There was only verbiage for you to mark it as dropped off, which to me was a little bit different of a language that you see for most other things, because most other things, when you're saying it's shipped, that to me means it has been into the hands of the carrier and it is gone. The waiting shipment for them seems to be before you even go in to try to print the label. Trying to get to a point where I could go in and put in box sizes and change weights was only happening in the order, and I really had to click around on a lot of different things to get to that point. One of the other things I did not like was you don't seem to get an invoice of sorts for a buyer. So the buyer that bought the 24 items, I did not find. I was trying to for record keeping and trying to look around for other things as for regarding knowing that I had the correct amount of items into a shipment was very hard to find. Just telling you, I was basically having to go in and physically count things for myself. When you do get to the point that you are printing the label, it will give you a packing slip, and then it will tell you a breakdown of all the items, but the packing slip doesn't even have totals for dollar value. It is just the list of items to expect to find in the box. There was just many things that this platform is missing in my estimation of being in e-commerce for 22 years. So I understand that this is going to be the buyer paying for this. I clicked through the first one and it, I guess, wanted to do the label. I went in to try to customize the box size because they were charging this buyer basically for a 5-pound package when it was 1.5 pounds, after realizing that I couldn't ship their 3 items combined, so that I had to basically switch out. I had to break it down to the 24 items, the other 5 items, and then I think it was like 17 items or something like that from the second show. So I had to split them all back out again and put them into 3 boxes, which broke my heart really, because I don't want to charge all. It just seems so excessive that should not have to be, because I don't want to charge them all this extra money. I know that it would benefit me and it would benefit them, because buyers would be more willing to spend money on items or buy additional items that they weren't going to spend if that shipping cost wasn't coming in and it became a little bit more flexible. But I can understand from the buyer's perspective that they don't want the sellers to be able to go in and incur more cost to them. I think there could be a way that they should be able to give us the top of what was reflected to the buyer and give us options for how we can ship the other items. My understanding is it looks to be that they only give you USPS as an option. I have definitely found UPS and FedEx to be cheaper on a lot of different things depending on the size of it. I also can tell you now, I don't know what I'm going to be shipping or trying to sell in other items, being that it is only a 12 by 12 by 12. This may lead me to have to do some of the bigger items in a free shipping format and build the price into my asking price in the beginning, which is one of the things I wanted to get away from doing it. That's how I do it in my wholesale business model. The one I talk about that is my sole source income business. That one is not part of what I'm doing on this channel, but I want to get away from that. I think that it does kind of hinder you from some things that you can offer. So what did I do in the Whatnot shows? To wrap up, some of the other things I did find was my first show, I was just doing dollar pulls, random pulls, that is PULL, and I could tell that I was giving some things away, and I was okay with that because I want to build up the followers. I wanted to learn it, and the only way I was going to learn it is putting some things out there, probably at a bargain, to get the people in, get the people buying, and giving me that opportunity to see the full process in itself. So on my very first show, I had 9 people on the show at any one time, with a total of 25 people that it came in the hour and a half. Both my first show and my second show were for an hour and a half approximately. Maybe the second one was a few minutes shorter. I did one on a Friday night at, I think it was like 9:30, and I did the second one at 8 o'clock at 8. And I will tell you that I think the later time period and not on a Sunday night probably did, as the numbers will show, benefit me more. So we had 9 in at one time on the first show. I had at the most was 8 in at one time on the second show. I had a total of 25 people in for my first show that was on Friday night, and I had 46 people come in through on my Sunday night. I don't know, it does look to appear that as I made sales, maybe that was it. Maybe this one gave a little bit more notice because I did throw the first show just up with a few hours of notice. The first show, when I had the cheaper prices, I did have one buyer that was heavily more buying than everybody else that was there. I had 5 buyers, but that was really 4 because the one, like I said, she bought so much. She bought a total of 28 or 29 items, and it split off because of the weight I was saying. So they wound up having 2 packages come out of that show. So I had a total of 4 buyers in that show, but I only had 2 buyers in the second show. The second show, one of those buyers was the same buyer that was my bulk buyer from the first show. So I sold $98 in my first show, $59 in my second show. I sold 58 items in my first show. I only sold 18 items in my second show. But here's where it gets a bit interesting, is that the average price paid per item on the first show was $1.69, where the average went up to $3.28 in the second show. What do I think changed in that? Was I was able to bring up all of the stuff I got in the Fisher Price Little People estate sale. I had a total of 13 tubs of these that would be the size you would fit like a pair of shoes in. I basically set up rows of what was I willing to sell for $1, $2. I had a row for $3, $5, and $10, because I was able to go through and start picking out and putting aside the items that I knew were going to be the more desirable ones. When I started the show off, I said, okay, here we're going to do a few of these at $1, put some of them up. Ran probably about 5 or 6, tried to see what people were interested in, ran the second ones, said, okay, here's for $2, what is anybody interested in? And I went all the way through the price ranges up to $10. So because having that $10 range and the $5 range in there, I really believe it did up the price. I didn't really see too many people bidding against each other, but I know that the 2 other buyers that bought from my first show were not at this one, and they definitely, between the 3 of them, were bidding against each other. So I feel that maybe, and I mentioned in the show on Friday that I was having the show on Sunday. I believe that probably helped as well. I plan to start doing designated days where I'll be doing themed type of shows, and I haven't decided if I'm going to make Friday night the night for these items. And I feel that the hour and a half, maybe 2 hours for me, is probably the most that I can be upbeat talking. There was very little interaction in this show compared to the Friday night show. So it does get a little bit of wearing down. I plan to have 3 shows this week. I want to do a kids one. I do want to do another Fisher Price Little People one. I'm probably gonna have 4. I want to do a kids, a Christmas. I have a craft one already scheduled for tomorrow night, and another Fisher Price. I think I'm gonna have 4 shows in this week. So I will be doing another update, and we'll see how things go when I do other types of shows in there and see how we can get through. But I will be working through some of these things, trying to figure out how I can relay and help everybody else understand what this platform is, how we can make it more efficient, and how I'm sure there's things I'm missing out on. I hope you're getting some good information out of this. I would appreciate a thumbs up if you do. If you have any comments, any questions, please leave them down below. I am still trying to learn this platform. I want it to become something that I can rely on as a source of income. So I will be here for more updates. I really believe there is a lot of upside, and I really am still new into figuring this out. I'm going to say bye for now, and I'll catch you on the next one.